Back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
And just like that, it is a Friday. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. All right, we got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk college basketball to tip the show off because the portal, the transfer portal activity is starting to pick up. For locally, the two teams here, Wright State lost a ton of their talent to the portal, and UD has just been kind of quiet. And that, went away last night. I mean, they have a much different outlook. The roster looks completely different today than what it did 24 hours ago, and we're going to talk about that here to open up the show. But we got plenty to get into NFL draft-wise. I want to talk about, wide receiver talent throughout the NFL, Jamar Chase, what Cleveland needs, that type of thing. We'll get to that around the corner. Plus, I do want to talk about Sal Stewart. Sal Stewart, I want to spend some time on this kid. He is unreal, man. Like the poise he has and just the charisma and he has that it factor. And I never thought that the Reds would be fortunate enough to get a generational talent in Ellie De La Cruz. And then all of a sudden you're fortunate enough to have a second potential generational talent and Sal Stewart come along. And the Reds might have struck gold on that, and it might be a short-lived gold standard run. But I mean, the Reds, if you're going to lose Ellie De La Cruz in the next couple of years, the fact that you still will have a Sal Stewart to build around is pretty damn phenomenal. And I'm going to talk about that more coming up in a moment, because not only do I think Sal Stewart is having a Rookie of the Year quality start to his season, I think he's having an MVP quality start to his season. Oh, come on, Kinner. We're 19 games in. What the hell are you talking about MVP for? Because if he was having a horrible 19-game stretch, we'd be talking about demoting him to AAA Louisville like we just did with Noel V. Marte. That's why. If we can use a small sample size of games to demote somebody, if we can use a small sample size of games to label them as a bust or a bum or whatever, bad adjective you want to throw in there, then I think we can use the same sample size of games to highlight and praise and get excited about the players who are off to a hot start. And Sal Stewart not only is off to a hot start based on rookie standards, he's off to a hot start based on MVP quality standards. We'll get to that more coming up here in just a bit. College basketball. Here's the deal. It's been a few weeks since the national championship game. All right. March Madness is officially over. In fact, April Madness is about done. I mean, we only have a couple more weeks. I mean, May is almost here. We're almost, we're tail stretch. I mean, it's the 17th. We're just past the halfway point of April. I mean, this calendar year is flying along, cruising along, right? People hate the portal. I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I'm a fan of a mid-major basketball team that has just been gutted. Michael Cooper, a true freshman for Wright State, led them in scoring and was plucked away, entered the portal, and Cal and Mark Madsen come and take him away. You look at TJ Birch, who's one of my favorite players on that team, my favorite player on that team, and, one of the nation's leaders in steals, and he's going to be stolen away. Ohio State's a team that's looking at him, BYU, some other big schools, Maryland, Big 10 schools, Big 12 schools, high majors programs. That's all that matters. He's gone, right? And Solomon Callahan, another one. So you're punished by your success at the mid-major level. Wright State's being punished technically for their success, no doubt about it. Now, I remember years ago when Bob Grant was the athletic director at Wright State, he would talk about how frustrating it was when coaches would be plucked away, because he's like, we found these coaches, we gave them the resources to be successful, and then, these big schools come and take him away. He said that was his mindset at the beginning. He said as he became more experienced as an athletic director, he realized that that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping that you find these coaches that come in and have so much success that the bigger schools want to take them. It's almost flattering at that point, because if you sit back and say, man, we've had this coach for 6 years and no one's tried to take him, do we still want him? Is he doing anything that is, he or she doing anything that is leading us in a direction that we have to worry about how we're going to continue on if someone takes him or her? That's kind of the reality of it. So in an article in the Dayton Daily News over the weekend, Wright State head coach Clint Sargent said, he's not happy that his players are being plucked away, but he goes, it's also a reflection of just the work that those kids put in, the talent that was on that roster. He goes, it's a double-edged sword. If you want people to leave your roster alone, don't have a good roster. If you have a really good roster, that's just the nature of it. That comes with the territory now in today's college basketball. But what I love about so I hate the portal for that reason. But what I love about the portal is we are talking college basketball here in mid-April, and we'll be talking college basketball probably in May, right? Like, the portal has made college basketball relevant significantly deeper into the calendar year. Like Dayton did not make the NCAA tournament. They had a couple game run in the NIT. And then usually when the NIT run comes to an end or the NCAA tournament run comes to an end, really the hype and the talk of the season comes to an end. If you're not in risk of losing your coach, really everything just kind of goes dormant for months and months and months, right? Because before it was, you already knew who your incoming freshmen were going to be. You might pick up a headline or two if you get a grad transfer to come in, but nothing major. You know what I mean? Like you get that Jordan Cyber at time, like, the Charles Cook era, during the Archie days, but there was nothing, the calendar, the content calendar just disappeared. The second the season ended, the content calendar disappeared. College basketball, it's like the season ends and it's like a completely new calendar. I mean, Dayton fans, you've been checking social media every day, waiting to see what Anthony Grant and the Flyers are going to do. Wright State fans, I mean, a phenomenal season ends in the NCAA tournament. Everyone's like, okay, who's going to leave? Where are they going to go? Who are we going to get? It's mid-April. I mean, I think it's even more significant when you talk about the fact that Wright State basketball is relevant in mid-April. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so college basketball, this has taken the interest level in college basketball deeper into the calendar year. And I love that. I think that that's phenomenal. I think that's good for the sport from that perspective. And I shouldn't say that that's a good thing in regards to that's why you keep the portal a disaster like it is. I'm just saying if there is a silver lining of the portal, I guess that would be it. It keeps college basketball relevant for the time being as far as that's concerned. So I like it. The transfer portal has us talking Wright State basketball. It has us talking Dayton Flyers basketball, Ohio State basketball, Cincinnati, Xavier. Even the Red Hawks, everyone's keeping an eye on, okay, the Red Hawks, that was a Cinderella run from the beginning of the season to the end. Like, was that a one-off? Is Travis Steele going to be able to continue that? So everyone's paying attention to what they're kind of doing over in the portal, who they lost, who they added, who they kept. So that's a great thing for the portal that all of our local Ohio teams, we're still keeping an eye on them, talking about them. They're relevant as we sit here past the halfway point of April. If there's a silver lining about the portal, I guess it's that. It's keeping college basketball relevant longer. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, so the reason I opened up the show today with Dayton Flyers basketball or college basketball in general is because I had a couple messages sent to me today saying I haven't tweeted anything about the Flyers. I haven't, mentioned that the Flyers added to their team and that I'm, ignoring the Dayton Flyers. And, if that's one thing that Dayton has a problem with in the area, is just not enough media drooling over the Dayton Flyers. I mean, you get sports news anchors that come in and they don't know it and they just drool over it. I mean, Dayton gets all the attention in the world. They're fine. I highly doubt that they're being impacted because Justin Kinner is not tweeting or reporting what's going on with the Flyers. And I have a real reason why it sounds bad. I don't care what the Flyers did in the portal. And I have a really good reason for that. Oh, Kenner, you're just a hater because you're a Wright State guy. So, you're purposely trying to not give them any attention as far as that goes. Well, that could be how you feel, because I'm a Wright State guy. So that's why I'm not giving Dayton any attention or love. I completely disagree with that. I have a legitimate reason for why I don't really care what the Flyers do in the portal. I don't care what talent that they add, and they add a talent. I like the players that Anthony Grant added. I like what the Dayton roster looks like. They had a big day yesterday. Jalen Haynes is a 6'8", 250-pound forward that announced that he was, technically on the Cincinnati Bearcats roster last year, but missed all of last season due to a knee surgery that he had in October. But he transferred to the UC, played in the A-10 before. He's an all A-10, first team member from the past playing at George Mason. So, that's a heck of an addition, right? So, the Haynes news broke late yesterday, just a few hours after the announcement of the Flyers landing Ole Miss and Kentucky guard Travis Perry. So they're getting high major experience, although we've seen Jalen Haynes, who's 6'8", 250. He's a beast down low. That's a hell of a get. He's a old school post player down low. He's going to muscle and grind and just physically plow his way through the lane. I'm a Jalen Haynes guy. I like him. I think that Wes Miller really could have used him last year. He could have, but that's a good grab by Dayton and Anthony Grant. And I don't know about the kid from Ole Miss, Travis Perry, averaged about 5 points per game. He's a good three-point shooter, can create his own shot. Dayton has been, they've had Kobe Brea. Anthony Grant could not figure out how to use a deadly three-point shooter in the past with Kobe Brea. I do know this. No matter how good Travis Perry is coming in behind the three-point line, he's not better than Kobe Brea, and Anthony Grant couldn't figure out how the hell to use Kobe Brea. So I don't really care that he can shoot the three. But here's what I'm going to say. Justin, you're not giving them any love for what they did in the portal. They're getting great recruits out of high school. They have Washington and Durkat coming in, and I highlighted that. I brought up the fact that Anthony Grant continuing to go and get the 4-star kids, and he's getting like legitimate talent out of high school. I've touched on that before. But here's why. When people come at me and say, Kenner, how come you're not giving Dayton the attention on your show that they deserve? How come you're not highlighting the players that they went and got in the portal? How come you're not doing, for one, they just got the players yesterday. How am I coming into work automatically with emails, people bitching, moaning, and complaining because I haven't given the Dayton Flyers any love? I don't have that many followers on Twitter. Who gives a rip if I'm tweeting about the Flyers or not? It is what it is. But I'll say this. If you really want to know why I don't care what the Flyers do in the portal, I don't care if they go add 2 of the top portal players remaining. I don't give a rip about any of it. And here's why. Anthony Grant always gets talent at Dayton. He always has talent. I mean, I remember years ago, you had Kobe Brea, you had Tumani Kamara, and you had Deron Holmes. That's as loaded of talent as you can get. I saw that talent not make the NCAA tournament. Deron Holmes went dancing once, which just so happens to be the only NCAA tournament appearance that counts for Anthony Grant during his 9 or 10 years, whatever it's been since he's been at Dayton. He's been here a long time. So I will highlight these portal, additions. I will highlight these incoming freshmen. I will highlight these players little less than a year from now, not in November. I don't care what they do in November because Dayton will win in November. They'll win in December. They'll stub their toe a few times in January and then ramp up, and then they'll stub their toe in February a time or two, just enough to miss out on an at-large. And then they'll win some games late, come up just short of the tournament, win a game or two in the NIT, and the future's bright at Dayton. Rinse, cycle, repeat. So if you want to know truly why I don't really care what Anthony Grant does in the portal, is because it's not shocking that Anthony Grant went and got a talented piece from the portal. It's not shocking that Anthony Grant went and got a couple 4-stars, that he got Durkat in Washington. That's not a surprise to me. Anthony Grant has always gotten the talent. And he doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to show for it. So if you want me to be impressed with what Anthony Grant has done in the portal, if you want me to be impressed with what Dayton has done in the portal, the guys that they just added, and they're going to add, I think, another player or two, go win with those guys. Get to the NCAA tournament. Prove that you're the basketball powerhouse that you pretend to be. When they get to the NCAA tournament and they start doing what their athletic director said was their identity, you won't hear a peep out of me. But I don't think I'm wrong for looking at a program that continuously underachieves, that continuously gets talent after talent after talent, gets all the talent, has all these resources, has an NBA arena, 13,000 fans in the arena, plus thousands more watching and listening at home. Oh yeah, I'm the problem. No, I've done this long enough to know how this works. Anthony Grant gets talent. Anthony Grant underachieves with said talent. Rinse, cycle, repeat. Put an end to that cycle. Go get this team to the NCAA tournament and do what you're paid millions of dollars to do. Because I'm tired of hearing about all the talent that UD gets. And I'm tired of every year hearing about injuries. Every team faces injuries. Every team does. I don't want to hear it. Stop with the excuse making. I no longer care about excuses, and I no longer care about what talent you get in the offseason. I just care about what you do in March. And what this team has done in March is consistently nothing. Nothing. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Oh, yeah, a chance to win $1,000. So Flyer fans listening to the show, you're probably mad at me right now. I get it, but hopefully this makes up for it. I have a chance for you to win $1,000. It's our ESPN Dayton Spring Payout. Get out your phones and text EAR, E-A-R, Text EAR, EAR, to 937-518-1410. Text EAR to 937-518-1410 for your chance to win $1,000. It's the Justin Kinner Show. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show here on a Friday, 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. You can also use that 937-518-1410 number to text in to the show. You could text into the show, and then, of course, you also want to save that number because that's how we're going to do a lot of our giveaways, contesting and ticket giveaways and all of that. Like we're going to be giving away some Kid Cudi tickets here in the next couple of weeks, tickets to upcoming Reds games. In fact, next week we'll start our text to win contest for you to win tickets to see the Reds and the Tigers at Great American Ballpark. So we'll have all that coming up for you. We're going to be using our text line a lot moving forward. So one way that we're using our text line right now is, of course, our ESPN Dayton spring payout. Our $1,000 a day giveaway, giving away $1,000 a day every day from now through the end of April. So we're excited about that. So I don't know what is my problem. I just have a constant whatever. My throat is driving me crazy today. So my apologies. I know that doesn't sound awesome into the mic and into your ear for those listening on the radio, but nonetheless, get out your phones and text the word EAR, 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 text EAR to 937-518-1410. As far as that goes. If you are a wrestling fan, I'm a wrestling fan. I enjoy WWE. I'm looking forward to WrestleMania coming up this weekend. What do you guys think, by the way? I like wrestling. I'm a big WWE guy. I grew up watching wrestling, and I get it. Oh, it's fake, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why people do that with wrestling. Like, hey, it's fake, right? Yeah, like so is every action movie you've ever watched, every movie you've ever watched. I mean, hell, even reality TV, even that's fake. And there's all forms of entertainment are designed to entertain you. I don't know. I just don't get it. But you'll have people who love Star Wars, collected Pokemon cards, real nerds that'll try to tell you wrestling's fake. And I'm like, okay, no one's saying that it's real. I don't know why we have to get into that conversation all the time, but I always get a kick out of that. I'm like, okay, I watch a movie. I don't sit there and say, man, this movie's really good. Well, that's not real, right? That's not even the actor's real name. They didn't actually fall in love, right? You know that guy didn't actually die, right? Like he's in another show I'm watching right now. He's not actually dead. You know that, right? Like you see how freaking stupid that sounds. That's how you guys sound for you morons that try to pull the whole wrestling's fake. Oh, okay. It's predetermined. It's scripted. Okay. It's cool. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Whatever. Which is why, though, I get a kick out of the ESPN coverage of it because I don't have no problem talking wrestling. I'll talk wrestling. I don't care. Benjamin Chimera, friend of mine, he hosts Card Subject to Change with Big Kev every Thursday right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. The reason I bring this up is because we're going to have a WrestleMania watch-along on our ESPN Dayton Facebook page and YouTube channel for nights 1 and 2. So if you are a wrestling fan and you're going to be watching Mania, you can tune in to our watch-along on our Facebook and YouTube channel, ESPN Dayton YouTube, ESPN Dayton's Facebook page, and you can hang out with us as we, for the watch along. Again, we'll be watching WrestleMania with you and just reacting in lifetime. Benjamin Chimera is a professional wrestler. He's he's trained with and trained guys like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and others. Good friends with Dean Ambrose or Mox, whatever he's going by over in AEW. We had Mox on the show with him. They go back. They trained at the same gym. Like they're real close. So, we'll have that for you coming up this weekend. But I'm tuning in to First Take and stuff all day. They'll have Triple H on there. They'll have CM Punk, and big fan of all those guys. But it's just funny to me, First Take and shows like this and stuff. So for instance, I'll give you a little background here. TKO bought WWE, so it doesn't happen as often. But before TKO bought WWE, anytime WWE was in the area, they would always stop by. They would send in some wrestlers, and I always looked forward to that. That was always a good time. They load us up with tickets to give away to you guys. TKO doesn't do that at all anymore. I do feel bad because there's a lot of I have a lot of clients and I have a lot of listeners that were huge wrestling fans that, I mean, if they were in Columbus, if they were in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Indianapolis, they would send us a boatload of tickets and I would make sure, to hook you guys up with as many of those as possible. TKO doesn't do that anymore. They used to send wrestlers in. They don't do that either. But when I would get wrestlers in studio, like Charlotte Flair, Roman Reigns, we'd get guys like that, girls like women like that, I would always ask them, him or her, I'd just be like, the Usos were in one time, Biggie Langston, trying to think of some of the bigger names that we had come in. I mean, this wasn't with WWE, but Al Snow came in one time. Al Snow was an odd one. Mick Foley has been in before. So I bring all this up. Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake is probably one of my favorite interviews I've done as far as former wrestlers are concerned. But I bring it up because like when the Usos came in, Roman Reigns came in, when guys like that would come in, Ronda Rousey, when she came in, I would say, hey, I know I'm supposed to interview you about WWE coming to Dayton, but how, like, am I interviewing like Ronda Rousey, the character that's about to fight Liv Morgan with the women's championship on the, like, I don't know. I just find that weird. Like I'm asking like legit questions about a build up to a fight, but I know the fight's predetermined, so it's awkward. I don't like it. I think it's cool as hell the exposure that WWE is getting through their deal with ESPN, but I find it weird. I do. I find it weird. CM Punk going to build up his fight with Roman Reigns, but you have actual hosts who talk about real storylines in real things like that, and now they're having to convert it to, oh, we got to play along with you now. And that's what I don't like doing. So when wrestlers come in, I'm always like, respectfully, I don't really want to do I'm not part of your build to your match at WrestleMania or anything. I go, I just want to interview, Charlotte, the person, not Charlotte, the character. But like you'll get The Miz. The Miz is a prime example. The Miz came in one time and The Miz is always in character. And he's kind of a jerk he's not a jerk personally, but the character's a jerk. And it throws people off, and it's really difficult at times, but he always wants to remain in character. Charlotte was cool with just being interviewed as the person. Charlotte's probably one of my all-time favorite interviews that we did. Roman was cool. Joe is his real name, and stuff like that. So I bring that up because when I interview wrestlers, I like to interview them as the people, but like, CM Punk is not on First Take as Phil. CM Punk is on First Take as CM Punk getting ready to defend his title against Roman Reigns. It's weird to me. I don't care for it. It's good for WWE. They get the exposure. If you're a wrestling fan, it's cool seeing Stephen A. Smith sitting next to Triple H. It's very weird. But like I said, I'd rather just talk to them as the people, not the character, as far as that's concerned. But either way. But yeah, Ronda Rousey, that was cool when she came in because I've been a fan of Ronda even before she was a WWE star. She was obviously in MMA and all that stuff. So UFC, following her career there. But either way, is what it is. So card subject to changes. WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 watch along. ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel and Facebook page. We'll have that coming up for you here this weekend. I'm Justin Kenner. It's the Justin Kenner Show. 937-518-1410. Text EAR, EAR. To 937-518-1410 for your chance to win $1,000. It's our ESPN Dayton Spring Payout. So make sure you take advantage of that. I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you guys see my ADD's? It's cruising right now, guys. Sorry. Did you see that Mark Wahlberg did a podcast recently? And he said that a Pete Rose movie could be in the works. In fact, there's already a script. So this would basically be a biopic of Pete Rose's, career. I'm assuming the most I think you're going to have the build up to it. The most interesting Pete Rose storyline is obviously when he was banned from baseball. So I'm assuming if there is a movie made by Mark Wahlberg, it's probably going to be set in that 1988, 89, 90 range. So you're going to have people who are, you're going to have to fill and cast characters for like the likes of whether it's, if you are going to start earlier during the Big Red Machine era, during his playing days, you're going to have to cast Sparky Anderson. You're going to have to cast Joe Morgan. You're going to have to cast Johnny Bench. If it's going to pick up in the 1998, the 1988, 89 range, then, are you just picking up with the 89, with the 88, 89, 90s Reds? Because you had the storyline of, Pete Rose, it said it in his documentary recently, before his passing, that it was hard to watch the Reds win that 90 World Series because those were his guys. Lou Piniella, the manager, yes, but Lou Piniella is the one that replaced him. That's who, the Margin company had to go get a replacement for Pete Rose during that scandal. And Pete said it was hard to sit back because, can you imagine, like, Pete Rose, I get all the off the field issues, all that stuff. Like, Pete Rose is just a legend within the Cincinnati Reds community. And for how hard he played, Charlie Hustle, winning World Series, part of the Big Red Machine. Can you imagine how much even bigger Pete Rose would have been had he won a World Series as a manager? To win a World Series as a player, as the best player or one of the best players, right? Because there's always the big debate, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, like who's the best of those three? I think the most well-known will always be Pete Rose, no doubt about it, but who's the best, right? But for Pete to be a legend as a player and then to potentially have won a World Series as a manager in 1990, that would have been massive. But obviously that didn't happen. He was banned from baseball in 89. And, Lou Piniella goes on to win a World Series with his players, as he talked about. But so I'm assuming that's where this movie would pick up in, right? I got to thinking, me and some coworkers today were kind of like talking about, man, like, how would you cast that movie, that Mark Wahlberg movie? For one, like, who would you cast as Pete Rose? Who would you have play Pete Rose in this Mark Wahlberg film? I think it's pretty simple. I think Mark Wahlberg would be cast as Pete Rose. I think Mark Wahlberg would make a good Pete Rose if he had to play Pete Rose in this biopic. I think that would be fascinating. As far as that's concerned, I'm trying to think of some of these characters in here, as far as that's concerned. I saw some suggestions, like if you're going to cast Sparky Anderson from back during the Big Red Machine era, like who do you have play him? Like a Dennis Quaid. Do you get Dennis Quaid to play him? You get your typical baseball older actors to go in, like a Kevin Costner. I think that makes sense. I don't know what the budget for this film would be. It's a Mark Wahlberg film. So, I think you would have quite the budget, right? So you get Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid, maybe Bryan Cranston. Maybe Bryan Cranston plays Sparky Anderson. What about Lou Piniella? I mean, who the hell would you have play Lou Piniella? And that would be a fascinating one there. How about Marge Schott? Who would play old Marge? That's where, that's the one we probably had the most fun with. Like, who would you cast to play Marge Schott? So here are my three that I think would make a good Marge Schott. I think that Kathy Bates or Melissa McCarthy would make a great Marge Schott, right? Margot Martindale. I think Margot, a big fan of hers and all. Margot was in like Your Honor. She's in way more than just Your Honor, but like I just watched Your Honor again and she was in there. But let's be honest. I think that there is only one woman that I think is as close to Marge Schott as she could possibly be. And I think would just absolutely nail the character. And, at times maybe wouldn't even have to act all that hard, right? I think Roseanne Barr to me would be the ultimate Marge Schott. If you have to cast this Pete Rose biopic, all right, I think that Roseanne, as far as Marge Schott is concerned, I would cast Roseanne Barr as Marge Schott, as far as that's concerned. I just think that's an interesting combination right there. And I think a lot of you would understand why. But, if we're just talking about, great actresses who can go in there and portray any character out there, I think that Melissa McCarthy would be an interesting one to do. I think Kathy Bates is phenomenal. I think she, she would do well with that. But Margot's good. Roseanne Barr, though. Come on, just don't let her sing the national anthem as far as that's concerned. But I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show. Let me know in the chat below if you were to cast some of the characters in this potential Mark Wahlberg, Pete Rose biopic. Who would you cast in that? I'm curious. You could text it into the show, 937-518-1410. Like I said, Roseanne Barr to me, I would, as far as who would play Marge Schott, I think Roseanne Barr, Margot Martindale, as we talked about, Melissa McCarthy. Those are some of the names there. Pete Rose. Some of the names, too, I saw that were sent in for Pete Rose. Some of these are, Mark Wahlberg makes a lot of sense. Jeremy Allen White. But again, Jeremy Allen White would play like a younger Pete Rose. If the biopic takes place in that 88, 89, 90 range, Pete's a little older then, right? So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the chat. We'll get back to this. You could also text me. Who would you cast in the potential Mark Wahlberg, Pete Rose biopic? Text into the show, 937-518-1410. More of the Justin Kinner Show when we come back.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Mark Wahlberg said that a potential Pete Rose biopic is in the works. In fact, the script has already been written, and there's so many different directions you can go in the life of Pete Rose. I mean, you could start at the beginning with the Big Red Machine and his rise to being a hometown hero as the player, coming up through high school, college, with the Reds, and then obviously, into his managerial role, and then of course the scandal, and the scandal is going to be the base of this. You would have to imagine, right? Like, I mean, that's a given. But like, it just got me to thinking, who would you cast in this biopic? And the character that I'm most intrigued by who you would cast as is just the Marge Schott character. I mean, she was a character, no doubt about it. But I said Roseanne Barr. I don't think Roseanne Barr would have to do too much acting to be Marge Schott, to be quite honest with you. Let's just be serious here. But Kathy Bates, Melissa McCarthy, I think would be interesting actresses to cast to portray Marge Schott. Pete Rose. So a couple came in, by the way. Who would you cast in the potential Mark Wahlberg, Pete Rose biopic? Mark Wahlberg would play Pete Rose. I think that's a given. Younger Pete Rose. This comes in from Eric over in Miamisburg. He said Miles Teller would make a good young Pete Rose. Mark Wahlberg, he says, makes sense for the manager and older Pete Rose. As far as that's concerned. Sparky Anderson, this one comes from Erica. We have not had Erica text in. Erica is over in Yellow Spring. So Erica, I appreciate you listening, by the way. Erica says Sparky Anderson, she loves the Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid suggestion. She thinks that would be the most unique for that character. I see like a lot of Bryan Cranston being, coming in, but some of you are just texting Bryan Cranston, and I'm not really sure who you're referring to for him to play. I'm assuming, Sparky Anderson, but Sparky Anderson would only be a part of the early days, right? Like the Lou Piniella one I'm interested in as far as who you would cast as Lou Piniella. I think that would be an interesting one as far as that goes. But let me know what you think. Man, it's still doing that. What's funny? During a commercial break, I don't do that at all. Second, it's probably because I'm not talking. I just solved my own mystery here. Gosh, I'm an idiot. Like, seriously, I'm like, how come I don't do that during the commercial? I'm not talking during the commercial break. The second I start talking, I start coughing. So there you go. 937-518-1410. We have about 15 or less than that minutes. A chance to win $1,000. Get out your phones and text EAR, EAR. Text EAR to 937-518-1410 for your chance to win $1,000. It's our ESPN Dayton Spring Payout. Giving away $1,000 every weekday from now through the end of April. Be listening for those winning keywords. We start giving those out every weekday morning at 8 a.m. all the way through 6 p.m. And your winning word for the 3 o'clock hour is EAR, EAR. And we'll have the 4 o'clock hour word, self-explanatory, in the 4 o'clock hour. So there's that. All right, we opened up the show. And like I said earlier, I didn't wake up and say, I'm going to purposely not give UD coverage. But they had a big day in the portal yesterday. They added a couple key pieces. And I had a few people, before I even sat down in my office today, I noticed some email on my inbox was kind of filling up. About 3 or 4 people had reached out, frustrated and pissed off because, noticed you haven't reported at all about Dayton's additions in the portal. What do you have to say now? And like I said it earlier, you're making this sound me versus them, but I don't think my take on this is that bad at all. It just sounds bad. Dayton yesterday, by the way, for those that don't know, and I'm sure all you Flyer faithful do know, they added a couple key pieces out of the portal. The one that's most impressive that I really like, by the way, Jalen Haynes, 6'8", 250-pound forward who played at UC last year, or was on the roster at UC, had a knee injury, I believe, or knee surgery in October of 25 and missed all of last season. Never got to play for Wes Miller's Bearcats. But he's hopped around a little bit from team to team. Would have been a force for Wes Miller and the Bearcats last year, but he's back in the A10. He was all A10 first team member back, years ago when he played for George Mason. And now we'll see if he can pick up where he left off with George Mason in the A10, where we know he had success. So again, 6'8", 250-pound forward. He's attended 4 schools throughout his time, and now he's going to end his career at Dayton. Nonetheless, now this, of course, when the news came out yesterday that they added him, when they added him late Thursday, that came a couple hours after the announcement of the guard from Ole Miss, who at one time played for Kentucky, in Travis Perry. So Travis Perry from Ole Miss, and then of course you have the addition of Jalen Haynes joining the Flyers out of the transfer portal. From UC. So there's that. That's something to keep in mind. Now, I think those are great additions. I think Dayton's going to, be in position. Like, Dayton's going to win 20 games next year. Dayton's going to finish top 3 in the A10 next year. And I'm saying that based on recent history. This team always wins 20 games. They're always right there in the mix in the A10. This past year was a down year for Dayton. They were a 20-plus win team, top 3 in the A10, and had a legit shot to get to the finals and all that stuff. They made a little run in the NIT. It was a good team. Anthony Grant teams are always good. They're always solid, at least. Like, the Anthony Grant teams are solid, but Anthony Grant teams always have deficiencies. And what the other key thing about Anthony Grant teams is they're always talented. Anthony Grant teams have always been talented. I've never once said, what Anthony Grant's problem is? He needs more talent. No. What Anthony Grant's problem is he has underachieved with said talent. Neil Sullivan, the athletic director, years ago came out and said it's about championships and getting to the NCAA tournament. That's why they strategically schedule the way that they do. All right. It's all about, avoiding those scheduling pitfalls. Every game has a purpose. All right. Every game is strategically put in that November, December range to put them in their best position possible to get an at-large bid. And to Neil Sullivan's credit, nails it with the schedule every year. And to Anthony Grant's credit, they usually nail it in November, December. So with the additions out of the portal that they just added, like Jalen Haynes, of course, and Travis Perry, those are great additions. And that's going to, add to the incoming freshmen that are coming in. They're getting some return players. There's going to be a lot of, experience there with the additions of some newcomers, true freshmen, and of course, portal players. This team's going to win a lot of games. They're going to win about 20 plus. Okay. They're going to ball out in November and December like they always do. But just like what they always do is they are going to lose to teams that they shouldn't. They are not going to capitalize on opportunities to get an at-large berth, and they are going to fall short of the NCAA tournament. And that is why, as much as I like the Jalen Haynes edition and the Travis Perry edition could be solid if he shoots the 3-ball well, and that's what he is. He's a good 3-point shooter. And they need a point guard. They need a guy to handle the ball. That's going to be pretty much his role, I'm assuming. But the bottom line is, I've just seen this movie before. Anthony Grant gets talent from the portal. He gets talent out of high school. He gets said talent on the floor, gets that said talent to beat extremely more talented teams, Power 4 teams, high major teams in November, December. And then with those same super talented rosters that beat really good rosters in November, December, somehow can't win consistently against the bottom of the A10. They can hang with the St. Louis's of the world. They can hang with the VCU, kind of was a thorn in their side this year, but you know what I mean? Like they just couldn't, like they can hang at the top of the A10. That's never been a problem. The reason I don't care about these additions is because I know how this is going to end up. It's going to be another roster with a lot of really talented pieces that we're going to look at a year from now at this time saying, I don't get how they couldn't do more. I don't get how the team that beat Power 4 teams in November, December this year couldn't beat LaSalle and couldn't beat bad teams in the A10. How did that happen? The same reason it always happens. Anthony Grant-led teams constantly underachieve, but they do just enough on the surface to make the resume look good. Look at all the games he wins. He wins a high percentage of his games. He wins a high percentage of his conference games, but it's not who you beat. It's who you lose to, and who they lose to is a constant issue that keeps them. They win the games, enough of the games that they should, to put them in position to go dancing in March. But if you could beat those teams, if you can dominate Power 4 teams in November, December, or at least compete with those teams, if you can go to Maui and consistently look like, oh man, you can hang with programs like North Carolina, you can hang with programs like Michigan State and Georgia and Kansas, and the list goes on and on and on. You could beat Big Ten teams, beat Northwestern. You could beat Big Ten teams. You could beat. Why is dominating the A-10 such a problem? Why is it that VCU could coach to coach to coach, just come in, rinse, cycle, repeat? Like, to me, I view Dayton as the premier basketball job in the A-10, but I don't know if it is. I'm looking at VCU, who doesn't have the resources that Dayton does. I mean, their arena is not great. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that, but all they do is win. They lose their coach, rinse, cycle, repeat, tournament. No matter who leads VCU, the Rams, that is a sign to me of a healthy program. I think Anthony Grant should have retired. I think he should have resigned, or Neil Sullivan should have had a backbone and should have put the program first instead of doing this whole, well, we just want a coach that's not going to hop from job to job to job. I would rather have a really, really good coach that you have to replace every couple of years than to just continue to settle for the consistent mediocrity that is the Anthony Grant era. Some of you want to continue to live in 2020. I don't. That was a COVID. That was a horrendous time in history. I want nothing to do with that. It blows my mind that so many of you want to say, well, look what he did in 20. Yeah, it was an outlier, because guess what he did at VCU? Won a lot of games, but didn't win enough games to consistently be in the tournament. Guess what he did at Alabama? Won a lot of games, but never won enough games and to consistently be in the NCAA tournament. Had bad losses at VCU, had bad losses at Alabama. And guess what he does at Dayton? Wins a lot of games, beats up on some good teams, but loses the teams he shouldn't and consistently falls short. Anthony Grant's he has a great win percentage, competes in the conference, recruits well, puts guys in the league. I mean, he does so many things right. But as fans, what do you want? Do you want to hear Flyers names on NBA draft night, or do you want to hear your team's name on Selection Sunday? Do you want to see your team play in March in the NCAA tournament? Well, Justin, you should have both. That's the problem. This coach has proven you can't have it. You can't have it both ways. Give me a coach that does less with more. Archie didn't have NBA talent. Archie didn't have Obi Toppin. Archie didn't have Deron Holmes. Archie didn't have Kobe Brea. Archie didn't have Tumani Kamara. Anthony Grant has had all of those guys. And you want me to be excited that, oh my gosh, look out. Anthony Grant has Jalen Haynes. Jalen Haynes is going to be why Anthony Grant all of a sudden starts doing what he's supposed to and getting this team to the NCAA tournament. You did it once with Deron Holmes. 2020, fair or not, didn't happen. Just didn't. You also had a roster that featured Tumani Kamara, Kobe Brea, and Deron Holmes, and couldn't get the job done. But I'm supposed to be excited. He couldn't get the job done with Tumani Kamara, Kobe Brea, and Deron Holmes, but I'm supposed to be excited because Anthony Grant has Jalen Haynes now? Sorry, that's why. You want an explanation, that's why. Okay, we're an hour into the show, and we'll step away for a few moments. I do know that we have the draft next week. WrestleMania this weekend. Quick summary of stuff. WrestleMania nights 1 and 2. We'll have our ESPN Dayton WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 watch along. ESPN Dayton's Facebook and YouTube channel. Cards subject to changes. Benjamin Chimera and Big Kev will host that. You can catch their show every Thursday night at 6:00. By the way, as they get you set for WrestleMania, as they just talk all things wrestling, of course, but it's all been about WrestleMania with that coming up this weekend. So keep that in mind. We got the Ohio State spring game tomorrow. That'll be a noon kickoff with 11:45 pregame coverage beginning, and we'll have that for you right here on Dayton's radio home for Ohio State football, 1410 ESPN Radio. So keep that in mind. Nonetheless, Well, that wraps it up for hour number one. Hour number two, I do want to dive into the Cincinnati Reds. I want to spend more time on Cincinnati Reds. Like I said, we spend a lot of time on college basketball here. That's because of the portal. I hate the portal, but the portal at least has allowed us to talk college basketball deeper into the calendar year. I'd say that's a win. I know I was a little harsh about Anthony Grant and the Flyers. I'm just not an Anthony Grant guy. He always gets talent, but give me a coach that does more with less. Archie did way more with less. Anthony Grant does way less with more, and it's frustrating. And until that pattern or, the results switch and flip, I don't really care. I'm not going to get excited about who they get in the portal. Oh, they got talent out of the portal. They have talent every year, and he comes up short every year. I don't want to hear it. When he starts winning with said talent is when I'll start paying attention to, oh, man, imagine what he could do with this talent. We've seen what he could do with talent. Not a whole hell of a lot. As far as what matters, which is NCAA tournaments. Heading into year 10 with one legit NCAA tournament appearance. Holy smokes. My goodness. All right, folks. I want to talk about Sal Stewart. I think he's on pace to win Rookie of the Year, but I don't really care about the rookie aspect of this. I think Sal Stewart is a legitimate MVP-level talent. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. The Reds in action tonight against the Twins. We got Reds. We got NFL Draft, Browns, Bengals, all of that in hour two. More of the Justin Kinner Show next.